Cincinnati.
Okay.
Bearcats, also 6.5, Dan. Where are you at with Cincy and Scott Satterfield?
I'm just sort of in neutral. I don't know. Like, what is it that is spiking your excitement, Ty? What is it about the roster, the schedule, the coaching staff, the vibes, the momentum or lack thereof that has you feeling decently good about where Cincinnati is in 2025?
Okay.
I struggle to find it. Maybe you are a better bloodhound here.
I think it's fair to look at this version of Cincinnati, which has a lot back on defense.
Yeah.
And ask the same question. Basically wonder, why is this year going to be any different? I think that's totally fair.
These were just kind of two average units last year.
I think that's a totally fair question. You can add players, but if you're not getting better in close games,
sure,
sometimes that points to a culture thing, a discipline thing. And for me, that's really the underlying question with Cincinnati. I don't have an answer to that. There are aspects of this team that I do like. I actually found that I like Cincinnati a little bit more than I expected. So we talked about Brendan Sorsby in part one. I really like him. He's a decent quarterback. Sort of petered off down the stretch, but that was more of a Cincinnati thing as opposed to a one-guy thing.
5 straight losses, missed a bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was not a good end to the season by any stretch. But, there are holes. They lose 4 offensive linemen, 6 receivers, a 1,200-yard back. But I think, in totality, the roster is still fine. And the fact that Brendan Sorsby is back, Evan Pryor is back, Dontay Corleone, one of the great names on the defensive line, is back. I think there is enough to build around and enough to work with that this team will be fine. I also think we are on record, both of us, being pretty lukewarm about Scott Satterfield.
Sure.
Year one was a disaster. I'm just not sure it was entirely his fault. Because they jumped up to a power conference. They lost a lot from the previous season.
After recently making the college football playoff, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Year one was horrible. Year two, there was a lot back last year. Schedule set up really well. And then the dagger was, as you said, they start 5-2, they lose their last 5. And the issue again comes back to, I think, discipline and those moments where they lose their focus and they shoot themselves in the foot. So for me, you ask, what am I into with Cincinnati? I think the roster is actually fine. And I like the quarterback and I like some of the key pieces that they have on this thing. Where I don't like Cincinnati is I don't know if they can fix that other stuff. Because that's not always a roster thing. That tends to be more of how are you establishing accountability, the boring stuff that, frankly, is not really worth talking about on previews like this where people care about rosters and schemes and things like that.
Right.
So I'm mixed. I do like the players. I just don't know how they fix that part of the team. They've got 7 home games, which helps.
That's good.
And one of the 5 road games, quote unquote, road games is a neutral sider week 1 against Nebraska and Kansas City.
Yeah, at Arrowhead, right?
At Arrowhead,
yes.
Yeah. I think they're going to run a little bit more because the running back room looks to me like a relative strength. The receiver room is going to be a work in progress, so they're going to be running. I think the defense, you look at that, they improved last season. I think they continue on that path. Still got to figure out a pass rush, which is a recurring theme here. Their pass rush has been on hiatus for a couple seasons running now. They got to get better at that. So I'd be surprised personally with this roster, with this schedule, if Cincinnati didn't get to at least 6 wins. To me, they look like 7-5, 8-4.
So sort of under the radar, like not winning big, exciting games, but winning games against, the bottom or the middle of the Big 12, doing all right, maybe outside of the Nebraska game in the non-conference, and you open your eyes and they're 7-5, 6-6.
Again, the issue is not the record,
right?
Which was underwhelming. The issue is how they got to that record.
Right.
It's not even a player thing. It's just how they got to that record. There were so many of those moments that were very frustrating. I have to imagine were incredibly frustrating as a fan to watch.
I agree.
They have to improve upon that ASAP. That is job number 1 for Scott Satterfield. there is palpable frustration within this fan base towards Satterfield and the job he's doing. So they got to shore that up. If you do nothing else, at least cut down on the dumb mistakes and the stupid bonehead moments that get you into trouble. And I think this would be a better team for it, given the fact that the roster is still okay. It's all right.
So if they're all right, because of an all right roster, blurbs Ty Hildenbrandt of the Solid Verbal, the massive popularity that the Solid Verbal has.
I think the most popular of the two hosts here.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's what Cincinnati has in front of them if they are competent, okay? They have what looks to be winnable games against Bowling Green, Northwestern State, UCF, Oklahoma State, Arizona, okay? By my count, that's 5 games that we can just say look reasonably winnable if Cincinnati is definitely competent. And then they have Kansas on the road. We'll see what that Kansas, the back half of that defense and who steps up if there's an offensive line to be heard from. We'll see what Utah looks like on offense. Baylor's still going to have defensive questions, and that's games at home. BYU could be a mess on offense if quarterback doesn't work out. That's a BYU team that you have to downgrade what their ceiling looks like. They could be a very, very boring 7-5 team when all is said and done
tracks
with that schedule. And the
I
questions
totally
involved.
think that tracks.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm higher on him than I expected. I guess the bigger question, the more existential question for Satterfield, what is the fan base willing to accept? Or how does the fan base view success this season?
Right.
Because if success is like 8-4, I don't think they're getting 8-4. If success is making a bowl, showing some improvement, cutting down on some of those mistakes that I talked about, then that's, I think, more attainable. But this is a proud fan base that's used to doing well. As he said, made the college football playoff. They're going to need at some point to see some results. Otherwise, they're going to get more impatient.